The Environmental Commissioner of Ontario presents a window to your Environmental Bill of Rights.
Well, it's really exciting to see the stack finally come down. It really symbolizes a new beginning for Hamilton in waste management.
At the time it was operating, the Swaru facility was one of the top sources of air contaminants in North America.
It was the largest discharger of cancer-causing dioxins to air in the country.
A fallen hero, exposed, then toppled by the ordinary people that it once stood to serve. The story of Swaru reads like a modern David and Goliath, a toxic, fiery giant slain by citizens armed with just the right tool. Only in this case, it wasn't a slingshot. It was Ontario's Environmental Bill of Rights. Swaru was a garbage incinerator, out of control. In the 1970s, it was introduced as the blueprint for the future. It was going to save the day, reducing unmanageable mountains of garbage to harmless piles of ash. Wrong, the ash was toxic, and as for the stack emissions, well, enough said. It was an awful brew. The so-called blueprint was really a red flag, and it would still be standing today if it wasn't for the real heroes in this story, the Environmental Bill of Rights, and us common folk that it empowers. Linda Lukasic lived in the shadow of Swaru. Like many in her community, she spent years trying to have it cleaned up. Their efforts were fruitless. They felt powerless. That is, until the mid-1990s when the Ontario government unveiled the Environmental Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights has provided citizens in the province of Ontario with rights that we didn't have before. So it has made it easier to get involved. It's made it easier for us to push for appropriate action to be taken in ways that we would never have been able to do 10 years ago before the bill existed.
So, what is this Environmental Bill of Rights? Well, in simple terms, it's all about the Ontario government opening its doors and inviting you and I in to see what environmentally significant decisions are being proposed, asking us to get involved and making themselves accountable. There's really nothing else quite like it.
The Environmental Bill of Rights is a unique piece of legislation in Canada. Prior to passage of the bill in 1994, citizens had limited opportunity to have input into government decision-making about the environment, and this enshrines that right in law. Hey, Catherine. The applicants have called, just wondering about the status of their application. They have concerns about noise and odor.
Okay, great. I'll follow up with the region right now.
Jim Lewis manages the government's Environmental Bill of Rights office for the Ministry of the Environment, the lead of 14 ministries subject to the bill.
The Environmental Bill of Rights holds the government accountable for decisions it makes about the environment. The government must post its proposals on the internet-based environmental registry to advise the public as to what is being proposed in their area, in their neighborhood, and then provide the public with the opportunity to submit comments on that proposal.
So here's the online registry, and you can use it to search for information on a specific company, or for instance, if you're interested in what's going on in your community. We're here in Hamilton. You can type Hamilton in and do a search, say, within the last month. So here's an example we've got, looking for an approval to discharge into the natural environment. It tells you the company name, where they're located, description of what they're proposing to do. And then there are details here on how you can get some more detailed information on what the company is proposing to do.
I think the Environmental Registry is one of the key success stories with the Environmental Bill of Rights. The public has the opportunity to go to the registry, to review proposals or amendments to laws, acts, regulations, and instruments, has the opportunity to submit comments in response to those notices on the registry.
And the government is then obligated to either pay attention to the comments and concerns that they've raised, or justify their reasons for not paying attention. And you don't want to pass up that kind of an opportunity.
The right to be informed participants holding the government accountable is just part of it. You also have the right to request an investigation if you believe an environmental law, permit, or certificate of approval issued by the government is being breached. Or maybe it's not being breached. You just believe it's inadequate. You have the right to request that it be reviewed.
That was the key to the early closure of Swaru. This request to have our certificate of approval reviewed ultimately led the province to say we need to have more stringent controls on air emissions immediately.
It was a lot of work to do a request for review, but for us the payoff was huge. And I think the other positive note worth mentioning here is that it also led the municipality to fast track their efforts to implement a new, far more progressive waste management plan in the community.
There's also accountability built into the Environmental Bill of Rights. The Environmental Bill of Rights establishes the Office of the Environmental Commissioner of Ontario, for example.
It was deemed when they were creating the act that there better be some watchdog that oversees this, and that's my job. My job is to oversee the implementation of the Environmental Bill of Rights, so I'm the watchdog, and my bite involves sending reports to the Legislative Assembly of Ontario.
The Commissioner's office is independent of the ministries. It's there to educate us, to protect our rights to an open window on environmental decision-making.
So that transparency and accountability is an essential feature of a government and government bureaucracies. It's demanded by the people, and it's delivered by the Environmental Bill of Rights.
But I think the most important thing about the bill is that people need to use it. You can have a huge impact in terms of ensuring that the quality of life and the quality of the environment in your own neighborhood is protected.
The moral of this story? Well, if you live in Ontario, you're empowered by the Environmental Bill of Rights. Engaged citizens can move molehills or topple giants. So get involved. To learn how, contact the Office of the Environmental Commissioner of Ontario, toll free at 1-800-701-6454, or visit online at www.eco.on.ca and know your rights.